Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Orphan Last, aka Skylar Madison, continuing where I left off from last week's commission piece, working on Quadro's logo for his YouTube channel and all that good stuff. And I create a couple variants of the logo. There's one other variant that I would like to make, but I would want to make that more so if I get the job to make the banner. Like, he's currently using this little animation to introduce his videos, to, you know, his video intro. It's this little animation, and it's this really unique looking Q, you know, the letter Q. And since he's already established that Q as part of his brand identity, I think I might include that Q in on this logo as one of the variants, you know, the text that reads Quadro underneath it and such. I think that would be pretty cool for the banner. But anyhow, you can see that I'm using a really irritating workflow. It's a workflow that I normally don't use. I have a video on drawing and coloring inside of Affinity Designer, and in it I keep my strokes and my fills separate. And in this video, I've just seen so many people doing graphic design in a very software-centric sort of way. And I thought I might try that. And software-centric is where it's as annoying as possible, where your strokes and your fills are linked together, and you're using these weird arbitrary rules to come out with a logo. And, there's nothing wrong with these weird arbitrary rules that graphic design comes up with. I mean, it can produce a really good looking image, but some of it is just, it doesn't really make sense. It's just kind of overcomplicating things. Even as far back as like the medieval period, we've had logos, and throughout the majority of human history, logo design has been fairly simplistic, actually. As simplistic as, drawing things with pencil, paper, pen, ink, that sort of thing, done freehand with your hands. And so I feel as though a lot of the stuff that we do nowadays with graphic design kind of oftentimes starts to feel kind of sterile, just simply because it's become so centered on the software and not so much on the illustration and a logo is not supposed to necessarily be an illustration, but it can be, and in this case it kind of is. It's just trying to really simplify a tank, and I feel like I've had a decent amount of success with that, actually. And as for the colors for this thing, the colors, the background right now is green. Throughout the overwhelming majority of this video, it's green, but you'll eventually wind up seeing me kind of experimenting with the colors. And I wound up settling on black because Quadro, last week when I asked him, what colors do you want to have represent your channel, he said, I really like dark colors, but they don't translate well on a logo. And so I'm thinking, okay, he really likes black, and maybe a dark blue or something. If I can get something like that to work, then sure, let's do that. But black and maybe a white or some bright colors to go with the black, and then there's the background eventually becomes black, and so there is color. Actually, I think it's just two colors. I think the end result, it's just a green tank and an orange dog, because it's a golden retriever. And you can kind of see me trying to work out all of these silhouettes in a way that makes sense, at least visually. If it doesn't make sense necessarily structurally, I'm not really all that worried about it. Like, if it doesn't match my references and my sketch perfectly, I'm okay with that, as long as it makes visual sense as long as I'm able to look at this and go, oh yeah, that's a tank. And so, like, trying to arrange the spacing between these shapes and these strokes and curves and stuff like that, trying to manage the silhouettes just right, it's a challenge. Now, earlier you just saw me just kind of get rid of the separation that indicates, I don't know, right now the barrel of the gun, there came a point where some of the line work went away. I kind of liked that, where some details were being implied, but I just kind of thought, I can't present that to Quadro. I can't see him as looking at that and going, yeah, I really like that. That looks exactly the way I want it to look. I couldn't imagine him feeling like that. And so here you can see me kind of honing down some of the silhouettes or the lighting in the scene a little bit better. Or at least I believe that's what I start focusing on. Yeah, I am. Because I noticed that on the right side of the tank I had pure black. And I was thinking, okay, well, I need to start kind of moving the black around, or just kind of change the shadows up a little bit. Where is the sun actually hitting? These sorts of questions were kind of popping into my head. And you can see me kind of getting rid of line work and recreating it. And this weird workflow exists purely because I was working with the strokes and the fills. And so, I mean, it can wind up coming up with a surprise, really cool result. This workflow is not the worst thing in the world. It really isn't. It's just not my favorite because I don't know. I just feel like I'm working with a bunch of silhouettes, and I'm just so used to working with my line work and just having that be my guide throughout the whole process. And you see me working on the dog at this point, and you can see I'm just using some super simple shapes. I'm not like really trying to one of the members inside of Quadro's community, they said, why don't you put a severed arm in his mouth? And it's like, well, that sounds cool, and I would love to do that. I really would. However, for a logo, you don't want it to get overcomplicated. And I've mentioned this before, because you don't want your logo to read poorly when you scale it down. And that scaled down version really determines what your logo is going to look like and all of that. And here you can kind of see me working through the colors. I'm just trying to figure things out a little bit at this point. I'm also trying to find out proportions, trying to get the proportions to the dog to work well with the tank. And I knew from the very end of last week's video that I would need to work out those sorts of details, but it is what it is. You can see the final result is on the screen right now, and the current version that you're looking at right now, it is the RGB version. This is the type that he should be using while he's online and like on websites, things like that. Go ahead and share this logo around Quadro. That's the one that you should be using. And this version right here, this is the black and white version. This is for when you need to mass produce printed things on a low budget. Okay, it's also like you can scale this one down to being like 1 square inch on a letterhead, and so this is trying to give versatility to the logo so that it could be used in multiple different ways. And so this transitions over to the CMYK version. This is for print. You do not want to be using this version on the internet, on your website or anything like that. You would want this to be more so in a magazine. And I adjusted some of the colors a little bit. I moved the green over a little bit more to being a bit more of a yellowish color, but I think it looks really good. I really do. I like it. I think it came out looking great. Anyways, guys, that pretty much concludes it for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And if you guys would like to have more collaboration with my community, feel free to join my Discord server. And if you'd like to support this content, feel free to click on the image of the t-shirt in the upper right corner of the screen. It leads to my Teespring. Any support with the purchase of a t-shirt would be much appreciated. And if you've enjoyed this content and would like to see more, feel free to click on anything else that's appearing on the screen right now. Thank you very much for your time.